Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, Democrats love to call themselves progressives, but when you strip away the branding and actually look at what they do when they're in power, their entire political project is the opposite of progress. It's restriction, it's overregulation, it's strangling the economy, smothering innovation. You know, in order to progress, you need to be able to create and build. But one thing we know about the Democrats is that they do not create, they do not build. No, they block, they restrict, they regulate, and then of course pat themselves on the back and pretend that they're helping, when the reality is very obviously the opposite. Well, of course, this is something that we've known for a while, but it seems now even the leftoids are starting to wake up. I got a viral moment here from the Pod Save America, which is nothing more than a left-wing shill network. Well, let's just say after this little encounter with a Los Angeles councilwoman, the reality of you get what you vote for just slap these guys directly in the freaking face. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's get into this viral clip. Take a look.
An emergency. We should all be freaking out about how urgent it is to do anything humanly possible to build housing. Are you focused on what will ultimately make California affordable for the people in your district?
Well, I am. So, for example, I'm bringing a set of tiny homes into an underutilized Metrolink parking station. I didn't have to do any outreach, but I started a neighborhood watch, and I also had a whole town hall related to addressing that component. And there's also an ED1 that's being built on Victory and Balboa. The neighbors wanted me to kill it. By law, I really have no jurisdiction anymore because it's an ED1. So we still, as a team, got together with the developer, and instead of building something that was potentially 6 stories, we got it down to 3 stories. And we also got the developer to also incorporate a few more parking lots and EV chargers.
You know, it's always quite the experience. It's always funny seeing a leftoid realize something extremely obvious for the first time and being totally shocked at the revelation. This guy brings on a Los Angeles councilwoman, and here she is in all her glory bragging about how her job is basically to force developers to scale back their housing projects. And this guy can't even process the information. He can't process what he's hearing. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, buddy, this is exactly what you cheer every day. This is the party that you cheerlead for. This is what you vote for. This is the ideology that you promote. You're the party of big government and endless regulations. Well, congratulations. This is it. Or I guess, congratulations, you played yourself.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
And then we got another clip here where Councilwoman Padilla basically just says the quiet part out loud.
There's moments where I'm in a position where I'm told, hey, this council member is not supporting this land use decision. Will you back the NIMBYs instead of the YIMBY? Myself, it's not a matter of the YIMBYs or the NIMBYs. I generally believe that a council member's number one job description, especially in the city of Los Angeles, is land use decisions. People get elected for the conversations that they have with folks about what they're going to do to keep their neighborhood looking and growing the way that they want it to be. For the state to say, here's your opportunity to build something that is potentially 7 stories high, when nothing around it is 7 stories because the state allows it, it's almost an insult to everyone who voted for the individual who they believe is going to help grow and clean and maintain their communities as they would like them to.
She essentially admits that her job, it seems almost as if she's bragging about it, her job as a councilwoman is to restrict construction on behalf of the residents. What do you think that translates to? My job is to block growth. My job is to keep the housing supply frozen in time. Completely insane during a housing affordability crisis. Well, we don't have more than 3-story buildings in this area, therefore we can never have more than 3. That kind of process in Los Angeles, where the population is massive, the population has been growing for decades, maybe not recently, thanks to Gavin Newsom and the rest of these scam artists, but obviously in urban, dense areas, the only realistic solution is to build upward. Density of supply is how you fight shortages, but instead Democrats slap layer after layer of red tape, and so instead of building densely, instead of building enough housing for the increasing population, what you get is really not much of anything. It's nearly impossible to build in Los Angeles. And you know, this is what happens when you elect unqualified DEI hires who do nothing but virtue signal into positions positions of power where they hold real control. Instead of having qualified people manage these projects and manage the city, you get some totally out of place social studies major who's in no position to be overseeing any of this, let alone making the final decision. And I think the incompetence was on full display there, not even necessarily by what she was saying, but by how she was saying it. Her communication skills are brutal. I mean, the verbal IQ on display there was painful. This is an individual who comes off as totally out of her depth, and that's how you get this layered onion of idiotic policies, one after another, that slowly start to have a compounding impact, and then all of a sudden, you become California. This is what happens when you lead with emotion, you know? Sometimes, not always, a lot of the times it's blatantly corrupt, but sometimes the policies start from a point of compassion, right? You want to protect the little guy, but you don't see the unintended consequences, and so you implement policies that are supposed to protect people, but then you end up hurting them. You know, actually, I ran across this video of Graham Stephan talking about rent control in California. I think it's quite eye-opening.
If you happen to make $1 million a year, you could be a rent-controlled tenant paying $1,000 a month for a beachfront condo, and you're never going to move. Rent control only benefits people who get in early. There was a story about someone who got in like the 60s. It's been rent controlled. Their rent is so cheap, they don't even stay there. They use it as storage because they don't want to give it up. So they're storing stuff. And then you have landlords that see this and they say, my place is more valuable vacant than with tenants in it. So I would rather just keep my entire building empty so that there's zero rent controlled tenants in there who are locked in. And then I have the flexibility to sell it to someone else who will also keep it empty. I can't tell you how many places I've seen in Los Angeles, prime areas, that they would gladly rent it out to tenants, but it's more valuable empty than with the tenants in there. And this is extremely common all throughout Los Angeles, and you have no idea.
You know, these are policies that are supposed to protect the little guy, but they just end up hurting people as the down-the-line economic effects start to show themselves. But for some odd reason, people don't catch on to it, and they keep falling for the same scam over and over again. Despite the clear failure of rent control policies, Democrats in big cities are still running on this stuff. Here's Democratic Socialist candidate in New York City, Zoran Mamdani, promising to implement more rent control policies.
If you are one of the close to 2.5 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing, I will freeze your rent. And I will do that because you have a median household income of $60,000 while your landlord profits have increased by 12%. This is an act that will bring nearly $7 billion back into your pocket and back into the pockets of our local economy.
And so it seems to be a self-repeating cycle. You call it compassion, but really what you're doing is legislating scarcity. You know, a lot of the times the regulations are wrapped in environmentalism, right? Or NIMBY regulations to preserve the neighborhood's character, but the result is always the same. You get less housing, higher prices, longer commutes, and wider inequality. You basically shut off the neighborhood, and the only people who benefit are the people who got in there early. And all you have to do to wake up to the facts here is simply contrast these poorly run and poorly managed Democrat cities with places that actually let you build. I mean, look at Texas, where you can actually add housing supply. The difference in housing cost is astronomical, because guess what? In Texas, you can actually build. It's not very difficult. But in California, you have to jump through 16 different hoops. And every one of those steps obviously coming with an expense associated. Look what's happening right now as people are trying to rebuild after the fires in Los Angeles. We just covered this recently. There's a 16 or 17 step permitting process. How can you ever tackle housing unaffordability in that kind of environment? You got students and tech workers living in their cars. Yet here's a Democrat councilwoman unironically saying it's her job to stop housing development. All because Stephen Curry doesn't want the poors living near him. It's time to jump ship, folks. You know, no wonder hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing California. The mismanagement is insane. It's an unrivaled level of incompetence. All the tax dollars, you know, this massive economy, and nothing but governmental failure after governmental failure. They can't tackle the drug problem. They can't tackle the homelessness problem. They failed to tackle housing unaffordability. The education system is in shambles, not to mention they've completely failed in terms of wildfire preparedness and response. And well, this is why you got these virtue signaling leftist Karens who should not be in these positions, but they get in these positions simply through the magic of DEI or just endless virtue signaling. People fall for the emotional crap, they fall for the Democrat rhetoric, and then it bites them in the behind. And the craziest part is that people will keep voting for it. This guy on this podcast who's flabbergasted by the stupidity that he's hearing is a literal Democrat shill who will continue to shill for the Democrats, continue to vote for them, and then will probably be in the same position in 20, 25 years. He's going to have a whole lot more gray hairs and wrinkles, but he'll probably have the exact same shocked face when the reality of his voting habits slaps him in the face again. Well, what can I say other than you get what you vote for? Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.